So in this first video of the pay-per-click masterclass, we're going to look at the foundations of pay-per-click. This is going to be a deep dive into everything you need to know about the mechanics of Amazon pay-per-click. We're going to use these foundations as we get into more advanced topics like campaign structure, bid optimization, and leveraging automation tools to maximize the return and effectiveness of your Amazon pay-per-click. So while some of this may be old hat to some people, buckle in because this will serve as a really solid foundation for your pay-per-click efforts on the Amazon platform. So really the purpose of this video is to provide the foundational knowledge of Amazon pay-per-click to frame the backdrop for the pay-per-click blueprint that we're going to cover in more advanced steps in future videos. So I think it's first important to understand what the purpose of pay-per-click is. And in my view, pay-per-click is literally a means to an end. If we could, we probably would spend nothing on ads if it was up to us. This is not something that we necessarily look forward to doing. It's not necessarily something that we want to spend money on, but it is a means to an end that we need to understand. Also, pay-per-click is a tool, that's all it is. And this tool is used to facilitate organic rank and/or profitable sales. And if it's not doing either of those things, advancing organic rank or giving us profitable sales, then we don't need it. And so we use this tool in a very isolated, directed way to achieve one or both of those goals. Next, we also want to spend the absolute minimum we can to achieve these goals. Again, it's a means to an end. We don't get points for spending more money on pay-per-click. There's no vanity here. In fact, the more efficient and the less you can spend with your Amazon pay-per-click to achieve those goals, I believe the better you are as an Amazon seller. Also, we cut off pay-per-click spend that doesn't either improve rank or achieve profitable sales that we couldn't have achieved organically. So if it's not advancing organic rank, we're going to reduce our bids, reduce our budget, or stop that spend entirely. Equally important, if we're not actually getting those incremental profitable sales that we wouldn't have otherwise gotten from our natural organic rank anyway, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to reduce our bids, reduce our budget, and or shut those ads off. But fundamentally, we do need to be good at Amazon pay-per-click, and it's becoming increasingly important to hone these skills. Frankly, if you would have checked in with me like a year ago, my pay-per-click skills and attention to pay-per-click was very minimal. I'm still just now getting more adept at Amazon pay-per-click, but if you want to be an effective Amazon seller moving forward and make the most out of the Amazon sales channel, you need to harness and be really good at pay-per-click and have a well thought out strategy. A couple reasons for this. First, it's going to be the largest non-cost of goods sold expense in your business for most people. Once you pay for your product, there's Amazon fees, but the next biggest chunk of money is going to be your marketing spend. And probably if you're an Amazon-centric brand, the majority of that marketing and growth spend is going to come from Amazon pay-per-click. Secondly, there's increasing costs. So you've got to be really efficient and thoughtful about your spend on Amazon because costs are rising. And if you just sit on your hands and do what you've always done, those increased costs are going to eat away and erode the margins and ultimately ROI and cash flow of your business. Third, there's less opportunity for organic placement now. And we'll get into this with a couple views in this deck. But basically, Amazon is serving up more and more ad inventory such that even really highly ranked products don't get the same visibility that they used to in organic search. Next, Amazon pay-per-click is going to be the main tool for non-Amazon native sophisticated brands. So those big brands you might be competing against that do really well on retail, guess what? When they come into the Amazon platform, their only go-to is either their branded search and or pay-per-click. And they're typically going to be inefficient and spend more than you would want to spend on your pay-per-click. So we tackle this in one way by having a really diverse playbook that we talk a lot about in this orchestra of traffic module. But at the same time, to compete against those bigger brands and those non-Amazon centric brands effectively, we've still got to be able to understand pay-per-click and understand what they're using pay-per-click for, because that's going to be their foundational strategy for the platform. Next, there's a massive impact and correlation between indexing and ranking using pay-per-click. It can either really help your indexing and rank, or it can hurt you. So we have to understand this pay-per-click tool as a lever for both of those things. And then finally, we talked about it again, but really it's just a necessary and critical evil. As much as we dislike it, we've got to harness it, we've got to be good at it, we've got to be efficient with it, and we've got to have an effective playbook. Also remember the Amazon algorithm, right, which we've talked a lot about throughout this course. Amazon pay-per-click does these three things really well. It helps instigate add to carts, it brings people to your listing and have on-listing activity, and ultimately it's going to generate sales. All three of these things, as we know, can feed the Amazon algorithm. Then there's also an Amazon pay-per-click algorithm that's thought to be at play. So pay-per-click, again, can directly impact your organic rank. So poor pay-per-click signals can reduce positive organic rank. So you could have a product that's actually doing really well organically, and you funnel in pay-per-click ineffectively at that word, it can actually reduce your organic rank. So we have to understand those levers. There's also an ad quality score that's thought to exist within the Amazon platform for each keyword. So depending on how you perform on Amazon pay-per-click, that can impact not only your organic rank, but also how efficient your bids are, how much you have to spend on Amazon pay-per-click, and how effective you are with this strategy. Okay, so let's start diving into some of the foundational elements of Amazon pay-per-click, starting off with mechanics. So first of all, Amazon pay-per-click is primarily going to be keywords or search term based, like what are actual customers seeking out products typing in, and then we're basically bidding on those keywords. That's the primary tool of Amazon pay-per-click, regardless of the mechanism that we're serving it up for. And there are some keywords that are restricted from pay-per-click. So certain categories, say like CBD oil or sex toys and things like that, there's going to be restricted categories where you can't even run pay-per-click on those products. Ironically enough, books is even one of those. So we got to be aware that there are some restrictions. We can also bid on competitive products, which is a massive thing, doing product targeting, which is really important. You can do behavior-based stuff now with some more advanced tools that exist within the Amazon platform. And you can even do DSP, demand-side platform, like non-Amazon, off-Amazon, programmatic advertising. That's pretty common for larger brands in various verticals. The delivery methods include search results. So when somebody types something in and they're kind of scanning that page of search results, we can put sponsored products there. There's headline ads and graphics that can also exist within product search. There's competing products that you can actually place ads, both visual display ads and product targeting ads on your competitors' offerings. We can do sponsored video now that exists within search terms. And again, we can target even audiences through sponsored display on and off the Amazon platform. So let's look at what this looks like for just a desktop. So you can see there's a headline sponsored brand ad at the top when we type in chef knife. If we come down here to this first row, all of those first four are sponsored products that are basically bidding on the keyword. And then it's these first four organic ranks that are basically 3 layers deep. Then Amazon in certain categories have highly rated products. This is an example of a sponsored video ad. Then there's articles and on-site Amazon associate stuff that we'll get into. And then look at this, these, placements 5 to 8 and all these other ones, look how far down the page they are. So even if you're ranked top 10 on Amazon, it's not always the best. There's more featured brands from Amazon, some more sponsored display ads here that people can click on. If we keep on scrolling, we get down to more organic stuff, more organic rankings here. And then here we enter another phase of sponsored product ads here near the bottom. So you can see those are at the bottom. If we keep on scrolling down here, we'll see a little bit more organic results. And then there's even more ad placements as we get to the bottom of these search result pages that we'll see here in a second. So there's some featured from our brands, and then there's some more sponsored again. So let's go ahead and click on one of these listings and you can kind of see what this looks like. So this is just a normal listing. And if we scroll down, we'll see here that underneath the buy box, there's one sponsored brand display ad. There's another one underneath the bullet. So there's 2 ad placements there that you can advertise on competing products. Sponsored products right here, we can see all of that row there. All of the row below that is also sponsored ads. If we continue to scroll down, we'll get through this listing's A+ content. There'll be some similar items here that show up, another area. And then there's some actual brand store advertising. There's videos related to, there's even more sponsored here at the bottom. And then at the very bottom, we see another display ad. So this gives some context for what you can typically see in terms of advertising opportunities within Amazon pay-per-click. So again, it's not enough just to rank well organically anymore. Even if we're top 10 in the chef knife category and we're killing it in a hyper-competitive niche, we still need to supplement that with pay-per-click strategies and advertising strategies to get effective sales momentum on the platform. And this is more true the more competitive your actual niche is. Moving on to actual mobile from your phone, this is kind of what it looks like here. Again, there's a display ad at the top from Dalstrong. There's 2 sponsored ads. We get into bestsellers. There's the highly rated kind of Amazon served version there, there's top sellers for business because this is actually a business account I'm logged into. And then we get into more results. You'll see featured from our brands is an Amazon placement. Continue down through more organic options. So there's obviously a little bit less sponsored display here. We'll see like a display ad at the bottom. So a little bit less, but still plenty of opportunities within mobile. If we click on an actual listing here, we can see a little banner at the top of that from Amazon. If we keep scrolling down here, don't see any ads through the, then we see some sponsored brands here at the bottom. That's another placement on product targeting. If we go through their A+ content, we'll just see that normally. See the product description normally, all the product information, some videos. Customers also bought, related posts, the customer questions, and then there's some more sponsored ones here at the bottom. So that's what it looks like if you're actually just searching from your mobile device on a browser. Now here's the next one, which is absolutely insane when it comes to that, and this is the Amazon mobile app. So if we look here again, there's a sponsored display at the top, and then look at this, sponsored, sponsored, featured from our brands, sponsored, sponsored, video ad, editorials with the best chef knife. So we have a whole page here with absolutely zero organic placement. So you can see on the app, especially for competitive categories, you really need to be running ads to get sales. And if I go ahead and click here on this listing and I were just a normal user, we can see at the top there's a banner ad that's sponsored brands. If I'm scrolling down here, there's another similar items to consider there underneath the buy box that I could click on. Here's another display ad just below that. And then there's even sponsored product ads down there below. So you can see on mobile, pay-per-click for certain categories especially is hyper important. And even if you were ranked number 1 organically in this category, guess what? Somebody searching on the Amazon app wouldn't even see your listing. So what are the ways that we can advertise? One is sponsored products, and this is probably the most popular and efficient to deploy on the Amazon platform. It's saturated in the sense that anybody that's running Amazon pay-per-click is going to be running these, but it's also proven and validated. Within these sponsored product placements, it's basically bidding on search terms that customers type in. And then there's basically 11 to 18 page 1 placements in most categories that you can actually bid and show your product on. So the top 4 are the most coveted there at the top. That's right below kind of when you first type in search results. They typically require the highest bids to win, and they're typically going to require that you have a really relevant product. So Amazon, even if you bid a lot of money, won't necessarily serve your ad up if you're not relevant for that particular search term. You can also do product targeting and competitor targeting. So basically when you're on someone's listing, you can do pay-per-click targets there, which are sponsored products from other brands basically. And that can be done both with product detail page and or branded terms, how you can target competitors. The next is sponsored brand video, requires brand registry typically, and it's going to be typically a low ACoS. So you're going to have really efficient conversion to ad spend on this typically. The problem is that at least right now, there's typically limited placements. So not every keyword is going to show up for a video, and those that show up, they may limit the number of impressions that show up for video. So while it's super efficient and can tend to be really ROI accretive, you may not be able to run it at scale like you can standard pay-per-click. It's also 4 times the real estate. If you look at the space, we saw that when we scrolled through, really prime real estate. And then because it's visual and enticing, especially if you create a very good video ad, you typically get 6 times the click-through rates. You also get higher conversion, and then there's also more placements that are coming out all the time, including placements on competitive product pages. Sponsored display is another mechanism. Basically, there's attractive placements both on and off Amazon. You can create custom messaging and imaging. It's cost per click bidding still too, which is really nice. You can put it at the top of product display pages for your competitors. You can do it under the bullet points that we showed, and you can also do it underneath the buy box. So sponsored display is a great tool. Audience targeting is a relatively new feature that's come out, and it's very similar to the demand side platform, which previously would have required that you spend $50,000 a month minimum. So this used to be reserved really for bigger brands. We can also do views remarketing. So if somebody actually visited your product display page within the last year even, you can retarget them. There's also audiences that you pay at a cost per click basis. So it could be in-market search, so targeting people that have been searching for your category, people that have a certain lifestyle, certain interest, or that have been to certain live events. There's also purchases that you can retarget. This is at a cost per 1,000 views, so it's not cost per click, but this is basically remarketing to previous purchasers over the previous basically year. They're highly profitable. It's very similar to retargeting ads in traditional e-commerce, and it's especially effective for consumables. So if somebody's come to a listing, they purchased, say, a vitamin C serum before, and you could retarget them, say 3-4 months left or whenever you think that they would need it again, and basically retarget them to purchase that product again. So while more new and sophisticated audience targeting can be another tool in our arsenal of Amazon pay-per-click. There's also demand side platform. We kind of mentioned this in a couple of slides. It's basically on Amazon banner ads that you can do, as well as off Amazon banner ads and retargeting. Typically this is more top of funnel brand based, so like your larger brands will typically do this. And it's very common in the traditional advertising space. Like, let's say I wanted to do television advertising, and instead of me going to each channel and all this stuff, basically they do these programmatic buys with advertising on, say, commercials, and they get it across numerous channels and targeting and timeframes. This is very similar, where you set more macro targets as a brand, and then the Amazon demand side platform will serve up those ads both on and off of Amazon. It's going to be cost per 1,000 views based versus cost per click. So you're paying for eyeballs, not clicks. And then typically it's a minimum of 35,000 now to get access to this. Or if you use an agency, pay-per-click agency, typically will have access to this. There's some software as well, like Perpetua, that gives you access to this DSP platform. I think all but really big, I would say heavy 8-figure into 9-figure brands would get value out of this, but it is an option within Amazon pay-per-click. So if we want to think about this as a funnel, top of funnel being like, hey, I have no idea that I'm even needing this product. I don't even know who this brand is, all the way down to people actively looking to either purchase from your brand or purchase a product category using a search term that you're targeting. This is kind of what it looks like. So at the top of funnel, your sponsored display, you can target things like life events, lifestyle interests that are more generic and not necessarily product specific. You can also do those DSP side platform buys that we talked about that target more of your mass audience for eyeballs. Moving down a little bit more down the buying chain, you can get into sponsored products targeting categories. So maybe I'm targeting somebody that's looking at golf, either with sponsored brands or sponsored products, or I'm looking at complements, right? So somebody bought something in the arena of golf, not necessarily our golf push cart, and I could target complements. So they're not explicitly looking for a golf push cart, but we can tap into their behaviors and serve up either sponsored brands or products to serve them. As we get a little bit more further down, this is really these research campaigns that generate mainly keyword ideas for us and search terms and things that potential customers are seeking that we may not be aware of. This includes sponsored products using auto, broad, and phrase targeting. So it's starting with a root keyword and having Amazon go out and find other ones like that. It's also sponsored display doing views remarketing. So somebody might have visited us before, may not be in the buying mode again, but we're trying to instigate them back into that buying funnel. Where we're going to spend most of our time here is down at the bottom, which is those highly converted, high buying intent strategies to actually convert people into sales. So this is basically doing sponsored products, looking at both exact terms that we know people are typing in and are relevant for our product, serving up ads for those, as well as finding ASINs that are in the space that we want to compete against and serving up ads on their product display page to convert customers to our listing. There's also sponsored brands here, using also keywords like with that masthead banner at the top of search terms, as well as sponsored video. And then we can even do sponsored display that can be really efficient to bottom of funnel activities. We could do in-market stuff on the actual Amazon platform. On competitors' listings, we can have these banner displays. And then again, we can do some purchase retargeting as part of audiences to get people to purchase again. So getting into key ad metrics, if you want to kind of look at the funnel of how ads go down, first of all, when you serve up an ad and somebody actually sees it, regardless of the mechanism you're using, that's called an impression. So it's basically an opportunity for somebody to potentially click on your listing. The next is if somebody sees it and likes it for whatever reason, they can click on your listing, and that's going to be a clicks metric. And then the final one ultimately is if they click on your listing, they're on your product display page, they actually add to cart and purchase your product, that's going to count as a sale. So two common terms and data points we're going to look at from a metric standpoint is going to be click-through rate, which is the percentage of people that saw your ad or the percentage of impressions that actually turned into a click. And then we're also going to look at conversion rate, which is super, super important, which is how many people that actually clicked on your ad and were on your product display page that turned ultimately into a sale. There's also some additional key ad metrics we're going to dive into over time. One is ACoS, which is basically the ad spend over ad sales. This has historically been the common way to measure ad performance and profitability within the Amazon platform. More and more it's moving to ROAS, so this is kind of the new cool kid in terms of metric terms. And this is basically ad sales divided by ad spend. ROAS is pretty common in non-Amazon advertising channels like Google, like Facebook, etc. So we now start to see ROAS targets as well. Tacos is one that's not necessarily measured explicitly on the platform, but we're absolutely going to calculate it as we measure performance for individual products and campaigns. And that's basically the ad spend divided by total sales. So when we spend $1 on advertising, what proportion of that dollar is part of our overall revenue for the business, not just on ad spend? Because we know that ad spend can also help improve and drive top line results organically, which can tend to have a benefit. So there's situations where we may not break even from an ACoS standpoint, but the uplift in organic rank and sales performance might make it such that our tacos are still in a very profitable range for that product or for our brand as a whole. There's also total ROAS, very similar to tacos, but for ROAS, where you're basically taking total ad sales divided by ad spend. Then there's this ad to organic strategy, which is basically the ad attributed sales that we know come through the Amazon platform versus organic sales. So if tacos goes down or stays the same as you increase organic rank, that's ultimately what we want to achieve with our Amazon pay-per-click. So moving along, these are some various match types when we're actually bidding on particular keywords that people type in, whether we're doing it just based on sponsored products, like those top 4 at the top, or they're scattered throughout organic results, or that masthead kind of banner ad for sponsored display. These are some various targeting types we can use. The first is auto, which is basically you just input ASINs into these campaigns, and then Amazon will go out based on different match types and target random keywords that they ultimately cultivate and optimize over time. The campaign types and targeting here that you can use are close match, which are highly correlated to your product, loose match, substitutes, or complements. As we get a little bit more closer, there's phrase targeting, which basically takes these root keywords and it can add additional keywords in between that Amazon may find relevant. Broad, very similarly, you start with some root keywords and it's going to add words at the front or back to determine other options. And then exact is when we explicitly tell Amazon the precise keyword sequence that we want to target with our pay-per-click. All of these 3 are manual approaches to ads, where we actually are prescribing at least some of those root keywords and search terms that Amazon should use in those campaigns. The other thing that you can do with all of these campaigns is we can actually do negative targeting as well. We can do this either at the phrase or exact level, which basically means that for a particular campaign, we can say, hey, do not target this particular keyword. Or we can do a phrase, like we don't want you to target this brand term anywhere in any of these words. What that basically does is it explicitly tells Amazon's algorithm not to serve up or bid on particular keywords or phrase keywords. This can be really important for words that aren't performing well and we know that just don't jive well with our pay-per-click, and or words that perform really well, but we want to actually target them in a different campaign and we only want to serve it up in one spot. And we'll get into this with campaign structure and strategy later. But that's match types. So bringing up that example from our listing optimization, this is just kind of what it looks like if you want to understand what exact, plural, phrase, and broad targeting is. In terms of Amazon pay-per-click, another important distinction is that both exact and plural terms are treated as the same. So you don't need to bid on both golf travel case and golf travel cases, because either of those terms is going to actually be bid on explicitly by Amazon. So we don't need to worry about doing plural phrases. And then basically what Amazon does is there's basically a real-time bid auction, like a lot of ad platforms, where it's at real time going to take your bid against what else is out there and how relevant your product is, what your bid is, what your placement is, and it's going to determine if you win the auction to serve up your ad. This is where Jeff Bezos has had a field day. There's upwards of 60%, I believe, of their earnings now come from this ad strategy. So obviously they're taking it to the bank, but this is basically how that actual live auction works. So to win the auction, a couple things to keep in mind. Again, the important thing here is the highest bid doesn't always get you the placement on an ad. A listing must be relevant for your ad to show up, and you may not get the best ad placement if your product's not relevant enough. So the highest bid does not necessarily guarantee placement. So the more relevant your product is, basically meaning the higher conversion rate, the lower your bid needs to be to actually win that auction. In terms of cost per click bidding, we're basically paying for clicks. So a bid is basically how much we are willing to pay for a click of a certain search term, placement, or ad type. So we're prescribing that. For most of the stuff on the Amazon platform, it's not going to be paying for impressions like a lot of other advertising platforms work. we're going to basically be paying for the click itself explicitly in most cases. The bidding strategy that we can prescribe to Amazon can take place in a couple of different ways. First of all, there's the bid range, which is basically a low to high bid we are willing to pay per click. And we see that a lot in the ad reporting. We can also do suggested bid, which will take Amazon's low, medium, or high range for products that you can expect to pay in order to win the auction for a given term or ASIN. So what this looks like in the bid options available, first there's dynamic down, which is probably the most common that we leverage. Basically says, hey, as an example, we will pay up to $1 per click, but Amazon's algorithm will bid below $1 when it's less likely to convert. So it'll automatically do that using AI for different search terms. Dynamic up and down is the same thing, except you were giving Amazon permission to go above that $1 when it thinks that we're more likely to convert. So it'll go up or down based on that. Then there's basically a fixed bid strategy where you can explicitly say, look, I'm going to pay $1 per click. Not higher or lower, I just want to pay a fixed bid, and then whenever it comes up in real-time auction, based on your budget and performance that dollar wins, it'll serve up your ad at that fixed bid amount. We can also do additional bid strategy options to pay more for top of search, so we can have a percentage more that we're willing to pay for a particular search term if we get those top 4 positions. And then we can also adjust based on product pages on competitors as well. In terms of determining what sales actually come from these various Amazon pay-per-click campaigns, first of all, with sponsored products, Amazon will typically count sales during a 7-day window. So let's say that I clicked on a product on Monday, and then I came back the following Monday, 7 days later, and I came back a following Monday and actually bought the product. A sale is going to be attributed within that 7-day window if I clicked on an ad 7 days ago. So there is some delay that tends to happen. Typically, what we're going to tend to see is most sales activity is going to take place in 2 or 3 days from the original event, but it can be up to 7 days with sponsored products. Same deal with the Amazon brand ads, except they actually expand it to a 14-day window in this case. But again, we can expect to see most of our sales transactions take place in that 2 to 3 day window. So this is why when we're looking at ad reporting and we're looking at strategies and performance for our various campaigns, we'll typically exclude those previous 2 to 3 days when we're analyzing results because the data may not have settled yet during that period due to these attribution windows. So that is video 1 of our Amazon pay-per-click masterclass. In future videos now, we're going to get into campaign structure, bidding optimization, and the various ways that you can think about, construct, and optimize your Amazon pay-per-click efforts.